I'm looking forward to this. And hello, Zoom fans. Let me know if you can hear our background music. We're going to try that. Good. I like to see that. I did this for Bryan because it's from his era.
Yeah.
So this is the special Friday night because this is SIP 38. 38 weeks ago, we started this little adventure to bring wine professionals, wine stories into the comfort of your own home. Brought about to you and sponsored by COVID-19, because it really is what caused this to happen. I want to say hello to Doug Rutherford, Elise Sanford Moore. Thank you for jumping on. Grace Clayton, Hans and Caitlin Greasy are in the house from Colorado. Jeff and Jane Greasy from Barrington, Illinois. Mark Chandler, Monica Eddy. Monica Eddy is in twice. Nelson Holden, good to see you, sir. Peter Glick, excellent. And Stefan from Colorado. Stephen Meyer, Awald. You guys are awesome. I'd like to hear that. I'm now going to turn off my phone and talk to you a little bit about what we have going on tonight, because the Cellar Angels supporters, not customers, supporters, they live by a creed of a Latin word that I thought describes you fantastically. Eudaimonia, E-U-D-A-M-O-N-I-A, eudaimonia. And it is the pleasure of living and doing well. So this is exactly what great wine does. When you can enjoy fantastic wines and give to charity at the same time, that is a high level of subject matter pleasure. And that's what we try to do at Cellar Angels. Tonight is no different. We have an unbelievable story for you tonight, and it's the first of its kind that I've ever seen. And we're going to share it with you over the next 59 or so minutes. I do want to have everybody, if you haven't opened up your 2012 Rahn Estate, please do so, because this is a gorgeous wine that will benefit from some air prior to consumption. If you're in a pinch, just open it and start drinking. It's not a big deal. But I do want to show folks a little bit more about this wine because it is something special. So I'm going to pop over to the Cellar Angels website. And this is what you see when you go to the marketplace. You will see our SIP virtual tasting kits, which you should all be grabbing, every 4 weeks or so that you can stay current with all the wines that we'll be talking about on every single Friday for the next 4 weeks. Wine gift sets, you late stragglers. Christmas shopping has almost concluded, unless you're my family genealogy, which you can buy a lot of stuff at Walgreens on Christmas Eve for some sales. You'd be amazed. And also 3 different sets of gift sets. But here's the special for tonight, Rahn Estate. And when you click into the Rahn Estate wine, you get a deeper dive into what's happening at this spectacular property. And as I said, this is a very, very unique wine because of the people that are joining us this evening and how they do what they do. And keep in mind, there is only 350 cases of this wine. So it's not you could blink and miss this wine. I have to take exception with age gracefully for another 5 to 7 years. I think that's low. I think with what you have here, you got at least another 10 to 15, but I am not the expert. We are going to meet the experts. And so without much further ado, it is an awesome honor and pleasure to introduce to you the entire, sans one, who will make a cameo in a little bit, and a furry animal lover and fifth member of the family, the Rahn Estate, the Rahn family. Thanks you guys so much for joining us.
Hey, so much for having us.
And cheers, and good to see you again.
You too.
And we'll start with Hannah, and Hannah was introduced to us by the fine folks, Elise Nearlove at Elkhorn Peak. So as we always say at Cellar Angels, great wine brings great people together, and this is certainly a testament to that. So Hannah, tell us a little bit about you and your role at the winery.
Well, hi guys, I'm Hannah. I'm the winemaker for Rahn Estate. I've been invested in winemaking and grape growing since I was little, and I've been doing it professionally for about 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bryan.
Yes. Hello, everyone out there. Good to meet you. I grew up around agriculture and studied soil science in college. And I have been in this industry for over almost 40 years now. I am a certified professional soil scientist. I'm a vineyard consultant. And we just live on a vineyard. So vineyards are us.
I like it. Dylan.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming by and taking a look at Rahn Estate. I'm the vineyard manager and viticulturist for Rahn Estate, along with coastal viticultural consultants. And I've been doing this now since Hannah and I were little. We grew up on this ranch, and probably my earliest memory was about 9 or 10 years old, was changing emitters for this guy.
You know, Dylan, just for, and both you and Hannah said this, you've been doing this since you're little. Just for the record, you're both still little compared to me. So when you say that I've been doing it since I was 9 or 10, it almost looks like, oh, so you started about 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think it's impressive how much knowledge, wisdom, and experience both you and Hannah already have underneath your belt, so to speak, considering that you're so young. And I think that's part of the magic of what has drawn me to your family story and the property behind me is that you've been walking it since you were little. For the most part. And so, Bryan, I want, since you founded the winery, to tell folks a little bit about, what you do. And by the way, for those of you that thought there was going to be a poll question that talked about certified soil specialist and you were going to have to guess his title, nope, we're not letting you off that easy. So, but Bryan, you are a certified soil specialist. You've been doing that for, 30 plus years, and you grew up in agriculture. Tell me what a certified soil specialist is. And how you came to discover this piece of property.
Okay, well, it's actually a certified professional soil scientist, and what we do is our field of study is technically agricultural, but we focus on physical aspects and chemical aspects of soils and how to evaluate them and study them. Through my professional career as the founder of Coastal Viticultural Consultants, I do a lot of soil studies and maps and vineyard design for major wineries and growers throughout Northern California. And through my professional studies and working in the industry for years, I was able to identify through our soil mapping tools components that made optimal terroir. So it is climate is one of it. It's a huge part, but the soils are the other half. And I was able to identify the properties that made world-class wines. So we kind of did it backwards. Rather than going to buy a house, looking out from the house we bought and saying, let's plant a vineyard, I went and found vineyard ground and said, let's plant a house.
Huh. All right. So you can study and know soils to the specificity and degree to know exactly what grapes will grow and thrive there.
Yes, and it's more, yes, what roots will marry with the different soil types.
Right.
So that's the root stocks. Okay. So you put the root stocks into the different soil types, you match those, and then you use the scion wood, which is the different, is Cabernet, but there's clones. And the other offshoot of being involved with the wineries is I was able to taste through a lot of the different clones of Cabernet, and I had the opportunity to taste all these vintages and through these different areas, and I identified clones of Cabernet. There's different, it's all Cabernet, but there's nuances to it, and I selected the ones that I thought would marry well with the soils here and with the climate here, and frankly, the ones I liked.
Well, and so one of the things I would imagine is difficult in your job is because you're consulted, like you said, California, Oregon, certain other countries around the world. How often do you have to tell a winery or a wine grower, yeah, what you're trying to grow here is not going to grow?
Surprisingly often. Everybody wants to grow something somewhere, and I tell them, no, well, okay, we can grow a vineyard here, but maybe not in that area. But if you want to grow this, you've got a spot over there that we can make, what we call rocket fuel over there. This will be a wonderful white wine, but the soils really aren't for red wines. But that's what we do, is kind of find the soil types and the areas that will marry well with what they want to do. And the rest of it makes great wine, maybe just not that wine. And that's part of the puzzle.
Interesting. Scotland Kiefer, hello. Good to see you. Julie Fogarty, great to see you. Jim Brubaker, also from Colorado, in the house. Apparently they have some snow in Colorado. That is not foreign in December. I think it's fascinating because, like you said, you did it in reverse. So you kind of fell in love or developed a love affair with Cabernet and then certain clones of Cabernet. And then based upon your career and your experience of years of doing it, you found a soil that would support those favored clones. And that's behind me.
Absolutely. And then, so we planted that. There are 12 different, of the 5 acres here, there are 12 irrigation sets all split up by soil types. And there's 3 different clones and 3 different rootstocks. So it is a quilt, but the quilt are never square patches. It's always amoebic to match where all the soil areas are, and all of it's all farmed by soil type, planted and farmed by soil type. What else would you expect from a soil scientist, right? Geeks are us.
Literally, I would expect nothing less. So Hannah and Dylan, who's older?
I am.
Okay, we'll start with Hannah then.
Yep. Logical.
And Bryan, there is a poll question that I want you to start thinking about now. It's the extra credit question. Which one of your offspring is your favorite? We'll get to that at the end. No, I'm teasing. But Hannah, what are your earliest memories being around Dad as Dad's basically investigating dirt?
Yeah, being in my kindergarten class, actually, he wanted to do a presentation, so he brought in all these different soil types, and we did elementary texture by feel, and it was
Color.
And color. That's right. And we did
different colors
and texture.
So Hannah's show and tell. People are bringing in puppies and stuff like that, and she brings in bags of dirt.
Yeah. Exactly right. So around soils and in the vineyards, I used to pal around with him. He'd take me around all the different vineyards he was checking out, and he has such a passion for what he does that it really trickled down to me. And even when I was very little, I thought, wow, I want to do that. I want to come out here and see what he's seeing. And so I did.
That's incredible. And so Bryan, you mentioned you grew up in agriculture. Where did you grow up? Has it always been California?
Yeah, in Central California, in Fresno.
Okay.
And that's where I met my lovely wife, but we'll get that story later, perhaps.
Absolutely. And so when did you move up to San Francisco or the Valley region?
We moved here in 1997, more 98.
And that was work related? You just decided to be close to the vineyards from consulting standpoint?
Yeah, we had moved from Fresno to the Sacramento area because I was working a wider region, and basically there was just so much for us to do here. We had a desire to move to this area that we finally put the pieces together to be able to find that spot that we wanted to plant a vineyard and plant a house.
I like it. And over on Facebook, hello to Janelle Mitchell and Alex Larson. I know they're tuning in, and I bet you Amy McGowan is somewhere hiding on Facebook, lurking. And so 1997, were Dylan and Hannah even in the picture then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Both
right.
little.
Both very little. And not a bad playground to grow up in, this property behind me. And did you decide on Howell because of its prowess for Cabernet and then look for soils, or were you just all of a sudden you discovered this soil and said, we're buying this property?
I knew that I wanted a Cabernet spot, no doubt about it. And yeah, when I looked at the soils, it's gravelly volcanics. It's just exactly what we wanted. And so yeah, absolutely. It's like this is gonna go great Cabernet. This is our spot. We'll put the house up here, and away we went.
All right, and we talked to, and this is why I think this story is so wonderfully unique. And we meet a lot of wineries every Friday night for the last 9 months, and most of the folks and the Cellar Angels supporters have been with us for years, and so they get introduced to a lot of wineries. There is that dedication by the winery to say things like, we want to source the best fruit, we want to pick a certain vineyard block, I want to have the best vineyard manager, I want to have the best viticulturist, I want to have the best winemaker. You have all of that and they're all related to you.
Isn't that this? Yeah. Absolutely, yes. And we are a team. We do a lot of laughing and walking together, and we feel blessed because of that.
I mean, it really is incredible. And so, Dylan, how did you decide to do what you wanted to do?
Well, the summers when I was in high school, my summer job was changing emitters and working outside, being around the crew and doing that kind of stuff, just because that was what we did. I didn't know anything else, and I fell in love with the idea of working outside. I'm an outdoorsy kid. I hunt, I fish, I do all that kind of stuff, and being outside. And I get to be paid outside to go and do this and go to be outside in this beautiful vineyard and do that kind of stuff. I just fell in love with it. I wanted to know more and follow in his footsteps.
And so as a viticulturalist, what is it that you're trying to manifest with this beautiful soil and this beautiful property?
I think the biggest goal that we have is make absolute the best quality that we can and micromanage each individual section to their optimal growth ability. Hannah is a fantastic winemaker, and having the different clones and rootstocks that are out there, the better that we can make and grow the grapes that are out there in the field for her and for our program, better for everyone. So we're just trying to grow each individual set as best we can.
The proof is in my glass, and I would be curious what some other folks who are drinking this think about it, because I think it's fantastic. Bryan, you mentioned that two attributes that immediately drew you to the property were gravelly and loam. And why is gravelly and loam so conducive as a vineyard for the clones of Cabernet Sauvignon that you've chosen?
Well, it's drainage, and they're volcanics. It's volcanic gravel. There's gravel that is in the rivers, and then there's the gravel that gets hurled out of volcanoes. And this is gravel got hurled out of volcanoes. It's drainage, because what you really want to be able to do for Cabernet is you have to control its growth. You really can't let it get too vigorous, because it just has green flavors. You need to marry that properly so they will grow and stop growing at the right time naturally, and then come into balance. So that was part of my experience with soils, is just knowing, okay, these soils have the ability to grow a vineyard enough bigger to grow it, and not too much to where it would just grow excessively if you married the roots to the soil properly. And that's what drew me to it. This is wonderful soils. It's, I didn't want to buy a place that had clay soils, and those of you that have it, I'm sure they're wonderful. It's just for me, this is just stuff you just kind of go, like when I'm working with my clients and tell them, hey, this is rocket fuel.
Yeah, and I've heard that about Cabernet before, how it is an incredibly vigorous vine, and you almost have to slow it down and take the foot off the accelerator, so to speak, because it can just grow wild. So is it a fair statement that there's so many attributes too. You talked about vegetal component in too vigorous of a Cabernet. I always thought that when you got that green bell pepper component, that it was picked too early, but you're telling me that there's a host of characteristics that can contribute to that.
Well, I would agree with you. It is picked too early, but if the site is designed properly, the bell pepper goes out quickly. If it's too vigorous, then the bell pepper persists longer, and then you tend to get high sugars, but you still have bell pepper in it. So it's kind of having those things come together at the right time. But I would agree with you that it might be picked too early. You could pick a well-balanced vineyard at lower sugar and still not have the bell pepper in it. The more vigorous ones, you really have to wait.
Right. And so, Hannah, when you're working with Dylan, and I mean, you guys have to talk probably 400 times a day just on wines and those sorts of things. When you guys are feuding, do you talk by text, or is it just?
Actually, Dylan and I are on the same page on a lot of this.
Yeah.
We both want what's best for the wine and what's best for the vineyard. So it's a lot more collaborative, I would say.
Agree. Yeah.
We bounce ideas off each other, and hey, what about this? What about that? And and we're both willing and open to listen to one another's
Text
opinions.
message.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. All right, he's gonna tell you that.
Yeah, but they're not bouncing ideas, they're bouncing
but
rocks off each other.
ultimately, though, I mean, like harvest this year, Hannah and I were walking around. Brian's running off doing other stuff, and we're walking around the vineyard talking about it, going, this spot's not quite ready. We're gonna pick here. This clone's looking like we need a little bit more time. So we make a lot of decisions together, and walking the dog every day is something we do already. So we just get to mix family and business together.
Well, and I think that's interesting because having grown up in the Midwest, in the Chicago area and Illinois, Wisconsin border, I mean, we're used to row crops there. And it is interesting when you see field and row of corn, you do see on certain hillsides that some of the corn is not as developed as other parts of the cornfield. And I imagine it's the same thing in the vineyard because some stuff might be coming along faster or not as aggressively. So when you are walking the rows, do you segment certain rows from the pick? And okay.
Oh yes.
And portions of rows.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We usually mark off different rows, and I mean it'll be like, for example, this year we had like 15 vines out of this set, and then 25 vines out of this other set that we're picking, and we're walking around tasting it. No, right about here's where it changes, and we're all out there talking about it. And the flavors are good here and not here. So, anyways, it gets a little crazy, but it's great.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of the better attributes of being limited production, because you have the ability to do that. There's not a lot of mechanization where you have these industrial equipments going through and just picking everything. I mean, you are really hands-on.
Yes. Some wineries pick by truckloads, which is 20 tons.
And what would your property in tonnage produce?
20 tons.
Yeah.
All of it combined.
All of it combined, yes. So we'd have to pick it all at one time. We picked 3 times. 3 times.
Wow. And so, and Hannah, tell me a little bit about your wine making matriculation. Who inspired you? Why did you actually want to make wine? And how did that journey begin?
I would say that I knew that viticulture and enology was where I wanted to be. I was in a viticulture class in high school. And as I continued to, sorry, that's the dog.
No, your high school had a viticultural class?
That's Parker.
Welcome to our family.
Well, I don't think I knew the term viticulture until about 15 years ago, and you had a high school class.
Yeah. St. Helena High offered viticulture classes, which was great.
Well, that explains it.
Yeah. And as I was in high school and kind of trying to figure out a career path, I was really drawn to, as many winemakers are, to the art, science, craft integration that winemaking has. Plus, it gives you an excuse to get out of the field when it's really hot during the summer, which I was used to doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I thought, maybe enology, winemaking is more of the path for me. And so I pursued that when I got out of high school.
And as it relates to foods, I want to bring in the matriarch to talk a little bit about the foods that the wines, Hannah, that you're producing. Do you consult with Mom on what foods actually might pair with this wine?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think everybody goes back and forth.
Who doesn't want Mom's opinion?
Exactly.
She'll give it, darn it.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, my mom will give you her opinion whether you want it or not. I don't know if your mom is like that, but let's bring Andrea in because I want to learn.
Come on in here.
I want to. This is now the family is complete. Hello there.
Hello, Martin. How are you? And hello, everybody joining us.
I am fantastic and just absolutely blown away with just how much happens underneath one roof, and you somehow or another keep it all under control.
I know. I mean, they make the grapes and the wine, but Brian and I made them. I'm feeling pretty good. Very.
That's exactly right.
pride.
And so, I mean, you guys have been making wine for a while now. And Hannah, Andre, I'm getting some great comments about this wine. Scotland Kiefer is blown away by the wine. Says it's one of the best wines we've introduced them to. Jeff and Jane Greasy, curious what others on the chat are tasting. I think if this wonderful wine was tasted blindfolded, he would not have landed on Cabernet Sauvignon. It has a lovely juiciness on the front, more spice on the finish, definitely low in tannins, and he loves it. So when you are getting wines from your children and husband, how do you decide on what foods pair with them? And what is your can't miss for these types of wines?
For these kinds of wines, you really can't miss at all with a good meat product, for instance, a nice copa like we've got here, and to bring out the berry taste in the wine, because there is some berry flavors in there. Just enjoy some good, delicious berry, and then take a sip of your wine, and it comes right to the forefront. It's just delicious. And then the cheeses I chose for this particular tasting are a nice aged Gouda and an aged Manchego, and you just can't go wrong with that. You really can't. It's fun, and it brings out all the flavors that you're tasting in this wine.
And is that half the fun for you, trying to experiment in the kitchen to?
Absolutely, absolutely. Any food pairs well with our wine, I've discovered. from burger to smoked tri-tip, which is delicious. And a couple weekends ago, we made a fancy dinner and we paired it with duck, and it was phenomenal. So
Wow.
You really can run the gamut with all kinds of delicious foods with this lovely wine.
Duck
And what was the? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian.
Medium rare though.
Medium rare, yeah.
Oh yes.
Well, and it's interesting because we had a couple chefs on a few weeks back, and in preparation for Thanksgiving, and they did talk about that you can pair certain wines with a medium rare fillet as opposed to a medium fillet, and it's a completely different taste and flavor profile.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our duck was medium rare, and it had a delicious sauce. And I've got the recipe, and if anybody is interested in the duck recipe, from Facebook, I'll send it. That's right. We'll talk.
That is awesome. Go ahead, Brian.
And one of the comments about Cabernet, about that it doesn't taste like some other Cabernets. This is 100% Cabernets. A lot of other Cabernets have Petit Verdot. They've got other varietals, Merlot. They've got Cab Franc put in them. They're called Cabernets, but this is 100% Cabernet. So this is a pure expression of the varietal and the vineyard. So
in our opening, we talked about this wine allegedly could age another 5 to 7 years, and I respectfully disagreed. I think it can age longer. So viticulturist, winemaker, what do you think?
That's you, Hannah.
Well, I mean, for aging wine, I mean, ultimately it's ready to go now, but I'm sure the winemaker wants to bring in her.
And also clonal selection.
Yeah.
These are all on top clones, which are French clones that are designed to have very silky tannins. That's my gig.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Cabernet that basically rips the enamel off your teeth and it's gonna be good drinking 15 years from now doesn't interest me. I think
it's funny you say that, Brian, because you've got some famous neighbors up on the hillside that make some of those Cabernets.
Yeah, it's just not my gig. Wine should be beautiful its entire life. It should be beautiful in the barrel. It should be beautiful when it's young. And these things are loaded with tannins. It's the long chain silky tannins that come from these clones that drew me to them, which I tasted in some wines around Napa Valley and thought, yeah, this is the thing these are the wines that I enjoyed the most. We figured either if we didn't make what we like, we might end up drinking it. So if we can't sell it all, so what the heck?
We make what we like.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Brian, I was a bartender one time. We made a lot of mistakes behind the bar.
That sounds like a good story we'll have to share sometime. I got to hear those.
Well, the tannins are especially intriguing to me and to a lot of us at Cellar Angels and to our audience. And you mentioned long chain as a byproduct of the clone. So what was the name of the clone again?
There are 3 of them. It's the on top clone 337, the on top clone of 191, and then we also have some clone 4, which is not an on top clone, but we put a little bit of clone 4 in there simply because I like the clone, and it's got a little more of those beefier tannins. But the other 2 are just they're known for elegant tannins and long aging ability. So I do agree with you. These wines could age for much longer. Sometimes if the heavy tannin wines, you put them in these heavy tannins and you wait this time, and because they'll age all of this, they can be silky in age. So those are the clones.
Well, that's interesting because Scotland actually asked a great question with regards to the tannins being so soft and so silky, and wondering if that was attributed to the aging process prior to the release. But you're indicating now that it's really more an attribute of the clone.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were this. They're silky and beautiful in the barrel.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's time that we go to the first poll question.
Okay.
Because everyone's going to get their thinking cap on. Smartphones down. So Bryan Rahn, founder, and Bryan, I may have messed this up, is a certified professional soil specialist, agronomist, and crop advisor, which means he's an absolute blast at a cocktail reception, is an industry leader in soil mapping, grape and wine quality enhancement, can let you know if you personally have a powdery mildew problem.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, Bryan, you can't answer. Not until we end the polling question. Yeah. See, I should have piped in the Jeopardy music. All right, I'm gonna have 5 more seconds. There's a couple stragglers out there. 4, 3, 2, 1. And in Cellar Angels history,
Hey.
well, now this was actually a trick question, because in the answer C, I had said, can let you know if you personally have a powdery mildew problem, and the key word there was
Yeah, that'd be hard to do.
that's right. But there is a powdery mildew problem that will impact a vine and a vineyard, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is fantastic with regards to that. And by the way, I'm sure you are a blast at the cocktail party when people say something.
Oh yeah, I'm in the corner by myself all the time.
Wait till you get got soil color, man. It's just, he'll put you right to sleep.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's like, look at the soil specialist over there.
Yeah.
He's at the buffet table.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. And I like the dynamic and the balance between, okay, so Bryan found the property and has the soil knowledge and actually knows the dirt on dirt, and brought the family in, and then mom plays a role in kind of the food selection. How would anybody ever come up and taste wines with you?
Well,
Who wants to tackle this one?
Yeah. Well, there's contact us through the website, probably.
Yeah.
Is the best way, or
Okay.
is it Instagram that get a hold of you?
Either or,
Either
website,
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram or
Rahn
website.
Estate on Instagram.
And we would love to have you up here and host you for a vineyard tour, take you
I
around.
was just going to ask, is this one of those vineyard tours?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It is.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
And which is fine, because it's something that we're all trying to help with, and the Cellar Angel supporters know it as well. And Hannah's very involved in Save the Family Farms.
Yeah, we all are, yeah.
And this is the exact reason why. They aren't going to build a 35,000 foot winery tasting room where you can stand 5 deep, and they just don't have enough wine, and that would be cost prohibitive. So they are actively involved in Save the Family Farms and getting hopefully new legislation and new ordinances written and created for, what's the phrase, micro boutique or micro winery?
Micro winery.
Micro winery. Good. Well, we are going to continue to try to assist with that. Talk to me about the portfolio and where you are right now. Case production, Cabernet obviously is front and center, and the focal point. But as the three of you are walking around and looking at the vineyard and looking at kind of economics and commercial viability, how do you decide on growing the portfolio, and what are you going to be focused on to bring about that growth?
That would be you.
Yeah.
Got some products going right now. Man.
Yeah. Obviously, Cabernet is going to be, our flagship. It's what we like to drink, and it's what we've got a great availability of. but we also want to move forward with bringing some white wines in the form of a rosé this year is what we're going to be making. We have a Berryessa property out in Berryessa, and we want to kind of do some fun warm weather whites out there, not just your standard Sauvignon Blanc Chardonnay, but I'd love to be able to plant some Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier, and do some really fun white blends out there that aren't so common to see. So that is what we're thinking about moving forward. And then of course, continuing the Cabernet program.
Yeah, and Rhone varietals out there for the reds.
Yeah.
Grenache Mourvedre is one of our favorite blends.
Yeah.
The
So-
GSM one without the S.
So Dylan, Hannah just mentioned about 8 new wines.
Yeah. Yeah. So you see what I have to deal with here? She's like the dreamer, and she's like, Dylan, let's find a way to do this. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I'll try to find a way to do it.
I think the only Rhone I didn't hear was like Cinsault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge for both of us, and Hannah knows grape growing well too, but the biggest challenge is being a viticulturist and vineyard manager is trying to find something that's farmable, finding something that I can, produce a good quality off of, and something that matches the soil and something that matches the climate, and that the property that we have, we can do that. It's just saying, okay, these are the varietals we want to move forward with because of production, because of quality, because it will go with our program that we're trying to make.
Yeah.
Well, no, and actually, let me answer a question from Doug Rutherford. Doug indicates or asks, they need to cellar their Cabernets for a long time because his wife tends to get migraines from young tannins. Would the approach of selecting a different clone, basically your approach, lead to a different result?
I think yes. Over time, the short chain tannins will get longer chain. But I think if you had clones that had silkier tannins, I would think that they'd have those long chains earlier. I think that would help. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. I think that they're going to have to do some field studies there to see how that goes.
There you go. And when you say long chain, is it the protein that you're talking about? Or what is long chain?
It's the tannins will join together. So, and this is a non-sexy term, but the way you look at it is wine is the solution of globules. The tannins are proteins, yes, so there's different things in it, but they will join together and make longer chains, and that puts that silkiness to them. Some clones are just more prone to it earlier.
I honestly can't believe you would be alone at a cocktail party.
Hey man, I'm a major geek. I know my chemistry. This is what I do.
I mean, and I love the geekiness factor of it because this is all fascinating, and all of us are avid wine drinkers and know our way around a bottle and different AVAs and stuff like that. So learning this type of thing, and Doug, I hope that helps because I think it would be interesting to have a couple bottles of this and see if your wife gets migraines or headaches, because that's no fun. And more often than not, we've attributed that to a lot of the viticultural aspect of it, the fact that they're using chemicals and pesticides and those sorts of things, and all that can lead. You guys go about it in a completely different way. And it's one thing that I think, Bryan, I want you to talk about is the dirt is a living organism. And so you've got to take care of the vineyard.
Yes, soil health of white. Now you're really making me show up for a cocktail party. We're going to talk about soil health, are we? Well, yeah.
You had me at hello.
Drink up, everybody.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, drink up. There you go.
Here we go. All right.
Doctor class is up. Okay. Well,
Yeah, you had me at protein globules.
Well, sustainability to us isn't just necessarily, well, you want to be good stewards of the land, and you want to tread lightly. We have native, just wild honeybees that live here in the forest and things of that nature that we protect and wouldn't want to do anything to harm. But in regard to soil health, there is a living faction of soils, as in all of the fungi and mycorrhizae and all the little arthropods and worms and all the things that are in there. That is a living faction of soil. That's a major component of soil health. Soil health is actually kind of in now. All the cool kids are talking about soil health now. Well, the both of them. So, but that is something that we manage here. with the cover crops and all of that is trying to maintain soil health, because a healthy soil makes a healthy vineyard. It gives it longevity. And as the vineyard ages and gets older, it goes through changes, and so do the wines.
No, I mean, it's to me, it's kind of fascinating. Ben Hogan famously said the answer's in the dirt. And he was talking about the driving range, because that's where you fine tune your swing. But really, great wine is made in the vineyard, and the answer is in the dirt. And you can't continue to treat a vineyard with chemicals and pesticides and herbicides and stuff like that year after year and expect the same level of quality. There's just no nutrient left in the soil.
Yeah, it's about putting it back into the soil also, you know. The vines take up their own nutrients and things, and we got to replenish that just to make sure that they're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like it. Peter Glick has a question that I don't think has ever been asked on a Cellar Angels forum.
Okay.
All
And-
right, here we go.
When mapping the soil of a property,
Mm-hmm.
how many samples do you take, and how far apart are the samples?
Okay, well,
Oh, boy.
It's a
Oh,
good,
boy.
good question. Good question.
Okay.
Yeah, bottoms up, guys. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Martin will be back in a minute.
Okay, well, basically, what you want to do is okay, so if you're going to get out your soil science superpowers and try to do this, so I would look at topography, the high ground versus the low ground, and I would look at what's growing where, the topography, and also the vegetation, and try, and you're the first thing you want to know is where the soils change. And so when you go in and find out where the soils change, you sample that as a unit and take a few samples there. And then you go to another area where the soils are different that you can identify by surface color or topography, what have you, and you sample there. We have some really wild equipment that does that in a real technical way. You can go to Coastal Viticultural Consultants or coastalvit.com and see that, but I wouldn't expect you to be operating soil resistivity equipment to do that. But if you're doing it for you, yeah, you're going to kind of look at your topography and figure out, based on the soil color or topography or how things grow, where you would sample.
I like it. I know Scotland is going to have to go make dinner, so he wants to see Google Earth right now. So we
See Google Earth.
aim to please at Cellar Angels. So let us, and Brian, I'm going to need your help on something here with Google Earth, because I have a soil question.
Oh, good.
So this is actually how we most often start Google Earth, by looking at this friendly blue rock we call home. And we always start by showing folks, new and old, kind of wine region to us. And wine region to us is obviously Napa and Sonoma. And Brian, what I've read recently within the past 60 days is that in addition to all of the major maritime influences of this wine region, with the Pacific, all of the bodies of water and rivers, and all of the geological upheaval and changes over the millennia and millions of years in San Pablo Bay, is that there are somewhere in the vicinity of 16 to 17 of the 30 plus main soil types in the world, all within these two regions. Is that a true statement?
I
Or is
think there certainly are that many soil types there, and I'm trying to think of the ones that I am most enamored with, and I would say there's a solid dozen there or more that I would think would foot the bill. So if you, and I'm sure I'm not thinking of them all, so that number seems about right.
Well, which is, I think, interesting, because then it lends to the validity of this region being just so magnificent as a canvas to grow wine, because of all that varied and complex and different soils. And you mentioned, you know, the volcanic rock, the loam, the clay, all of the different elements that are here. It just is really a slate that is unlike any other in the world to basically produce wine. So before we get to Rahn Estate, I want to show folks where we kind of orient ourselves to, and we're going to start at the town of St. Helena. So St. Helena is very far north in the valley. It's what we refer to as Up Valley. The only other big Up Valley city past this is Calistoga. And you can see we've got, where are my wineries? St. Helena Winery was right in here. Titus is right up there. To give you an idea of Silverado Trail that kind of snakes on the right-hand side of 29. But stop 2 is the intersection of Silverado and basically the entryway to your home, right?
Yes, Deer Park Road.
And I wanted, yeah, Deer Park. Deer Park?
Deer Park Road,
Okay, I grew up near a deer park, so that kind of concerned me.
uh-huh.
But I think this is an interesting view because you begin to see the topography start to change at this intersection. This is Silverado Trail right here. Taking a right-hand turn and you start going up into these hills. And now when we get up to the top of the hill and the first mountain, we get to your estate. I hope it's your estate. Otherwise,
You found us, yes.
otherwise I am again having to sue Google. The last week. Here's what I find fascinating, and we've talked over the last 6 or 8 weeks about the glass fire, and this is a satellite image from October 20th, so you can see the impact right here of the fire.
Yeah.
And wow, it must have looked like an inferno over that hillside for you guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was scary.
And so now you're on the other end or on the opposite side of this hill, and it's quite steep. And are all 3 of these your vineyards?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about this one?
Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Good guy, bad guy?
Good guy.
We like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy.
All right, good. Because if it was a bad guy, I was just going to cut him out of the picture.
No, he's fine.
So each one of these are different elevations. Each one of them have different topography, and I'm sure each one of them has, well, relatively different soil types because of the erosion that has occurred over the years. So how did you, were you just driving by and saw a for sale sign? I mean, this is crazy. It looks crazy steep.
Yeah, well, we were looking for a number of sites, and yeah, that one came open, and it was, it was a bit overgrown. But once I kind of walked through the property and looked at what they had there, and I was looking at the soils and kind of grabbing the soils, it was like, okay, wow, the soils are fantastic. If there's enough here for me to do something with, I think we'll make a move on it. And I went back again and took another look and explored it further and said, no, the slopes look good enough to plant, and there's definitely enough area here to do this. So yeah, the issue there was water.
Mm-hmm. And how did you solve that issue?
Well, we drilled a well, and I'll tell you this story. We're running short on time, but I'll tell it quickly.
No, it's a 4-hour program. We're fine.
Okay, so we went up here to drill a well, and we had somebody up here, a dowser, the water witcher things, which I firmly believe, by the way. I'll tell you, I'm a scientist geek. I mean, I am a chemistry geek, but I'm telling you, I believe it. That some people have this uncanny ability to find water. So we brought the dowser.
I have that ability, but it's only on the golf course.
Well, that thing, that divining rod, that club you're using,
that is my divining rod.
Yeah, there you go.
Points right at it every time.
So they said, this is where we're going to drill. We show up to drill. The drilling team is there. The deal's contingent on us finding water. And I remember it was a 49ers game was on, and the drill team was in a hurry to leave. They collapsed the well. Collapse it. And so every time you drill a well, you're just throwing a bass boat at it. In other words, in terms of money. So,
yeah.
So then it collapsed the well. And so I went home and it's just like, we collapsed the well, no water. Do we bail on this thing? And I was to the point where we came back and I was going to bail on it. We were going to fix the driveway back, and just because we had to haul the well drilling rig up here with the D8 hooked to a chain up this goat trail that was here, drug that thing up here in December, got it up here, and they collapsed the well. And so, people were saying, well, there's no water on this property. So that was a Friday. So we were going to give up. On Monday, I was going to call them. And then, and this, as crazy as this sounds, I had a dream that I was going down this well, and I stopped, and I saw water. And Andrea and I talked about it the next morning. I said, honey, I saw water there. Let's throw another bass boat at it.
Oh
And we hit
my
water.
God.
And we hit water.
So wait, so you had the, was it like the Army Corps of Engineers or SF? And I mean, who came up with the analysis, the scientists, and did the divining person come later and tell you where to look, or?
No, they told us then, but they had
Okay.
just collapsed. They had just collapsed the well, and it just had caved in, and they hadn't hit water yet. Well, we didn't go far enough, so we need to basically go drill it again, and hopefully we won't collapse it. We'll use the drilling techniques. We'll do these other techniques, and we'll get deep enough, and we'll hit it. And we did. And we have 3 wells on this property, and a spring that is just runs almost year round. This property is full of water. People
How
just didn't know it.
How deep did you have to go to hit water?
400 feet.
I'm quite familiar with that depth. This will alarm some people, but we actually had to dig a well on our family farm in northern Illinois. And well digging is somewhat science, somewhat coin flip.
Yep.
And what was amazing is they found water about 30 feet down. And then they said, okay, well, we need to move the well over. And they moved the well over 30 feet and they drilled 380 feet down until they hit the same amount.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few bass boats there purchased.
Yeah.
Yes. So we stayed with it, and now that we have abundant water here, there is
And
water.
what do you think was I mean, you're a child of the 60s, you grew up in California. What do you think was the catalyst of the dreams?
Yeah, incense. Tie-dye poisoning and incense.
Tie-dye poisoning. There is no such thing. That is a fascinating story. I mean, everything about this whole thing is fascinating. And I would kind of consider this to be really akin to the American dream. You have pursued your passion. You have your children in the business with you. You're making a product that is enjoyed, consumed, and revered by many around the country. And at the same time, you're doing good as a byproduct of doing that. And it's not, I mean, that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
We are grateful.
Yeah, very good.
That is amazing. I have one more poll question.
Okay.
Is Brian crazy?
Yeah.
So let me see. Okay, now this one I actually don't know the answer to. The Rahn family's favorite song, which is traditionally sung during the holidays, is "We Are Family" by Sister Sledge. "It's a Family Affair" by Sly and the Family Stone, or the theme song from All in the Family with Archie Bunker and Gene Stapleton. Now, Andrea, I might need you to chime in, and there may be a favorite song. It may not be among these 3, and you can feel free to share. But I took an angle here because of Brian's background, and I'd be curious what the final answer is. I'm going to give this about another 20 seconds. These are all classics, especially if you grew up in the 70s and 80s. Oh, I like the powwow.
Yeah. No,
We're doing that.
She is a resident musician, by the way. She plays the piano wonderfully. So you nailed
What
it.
doesn't your family do? All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3. I see a lot of answers changing. 2, 1.
They said, oh, crap.
Yeah.
All right, so the number 1 answer is "We Are Family" by Sister Sledge.
Yeah.
I would say it.
Yeah.
Is it really?
I mean, we know
I
the
like
lyrics.
it.
Yeah.
Family.
That literally is, I know 1 stanza.
That's what we know.
Jeff and Jane Greasy are 2 for 2 tonight. They are on fire.
Hey, thanks for that, guys.
Unfortunately, there was a tie, so the money will roll over until next week because it's 1 tie, all tie. We need a clear, definitive winner. tell me, I mean, you talked a little bit about the Rome varietals and kind of the future portfolio. Bryan, do you ever see yourself retiring?
Yes.
Oh,
I don't.
Yeah. Well, no.
Dylan told me to ask that question.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Although I reserve the right to come back and say, you missed the spot.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. And I can't, I mean, I think it's fascinating when you guys get to walk the vineyards and Hannah, you can say to Dylan, okay, I'm thinking about doing this. I mean, do you have that exchange by say, I need more oomph, or I need more, I mean, how do you convey something to Dylan with regards to what you're looking for? Or does Dylan just give you the raw product and you make the best wine from that?
No, it's definitely collaborative. It's, hey, it's usually based on visual, what we're both seeing, what we're both tasting, what we're trying to target. So
you have similar palettes.
yeah,
and
and visions, I think. So, it'll just kind of be, here's what I want to target, here's what I'm tasting here.
Yep.
So, maybe we hold off on this section, what's your timeline looking like? What's your scheduling looking like? Where can we fit in? Because that's a lot of winemaking and grape growing.
it's knowing the vineyard, and that's what Hannah and I do. And knowing the vineyard and knowing the different spots and knowing how irrigation works and what our schedule is like and what we're trying to accomplish with, deficit irrigation. We're not irrigating a lot. We're irrigating on a very minimal amount. We're trying to watch what the vines are telling us, balancing growth and quality, and just trying to say, okay, Hannah, this is what we've got. This is what we're trying to hang. And we're all working together, just saying, hey, this is what we want to do.
And then what is, I know you have Cabernet, but what else is the current offering in the portfolio?
Currently, we're offering our Grenache Mourvedre and Zinfandel. That is sourced from not our Rahn Estate.
And a
vineyard.
Petit
And
Syrah.
a Petit Syrah, yep.
I will tell you, Petit Syrah fans out there, this is the Stag's Leap clone. It's 100% Stag Leap clone of Petit Syrah. Why did I choose that one? It has the silkiest
Yeah.
and smoothest
Yeah.
tannins of all the Petit Syrah clones I've ever tried, so we planted some.
And Hannah, and to Brian's point earlier, a lot of great cab producers do cut in 2% of Merlot or a percent of Petit Verdot or anything like that. Do you feel having to have 100% Cabernet constricts you, or do you want to make a blend? Or
I don't feel constricted at all by having 100% Cabernet. There's winemaking techniques that you can do. If you're looking like you want a little more extra for volume on the palate, there's lots of things you can do during fermentation to extract that. Barrel selection also can play a huge role in tannins and body on the wine. So it's just kind of looking at a balance between all of those factors as an end product, how they all come together. So it's not really limiting when we have the different clones and everything is grown to perfection, and we don't really have to worry about green flavors or mitigating, any faults from the vineyard. It makes it a lot easier because it all just comes down to technique and finesse in the winery.
Well,
I
go
think
go ahead.
the issue here, when we do blending trials, the wine is different. We didn't think it was better.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think the proof obviously is in the bottle, but when you start with great ingredients that are cared for in the manner of which your entire family cares for them, taking care of the vineyard soil, taking care of the rootstock, taking care of the bees in the forest, taking care of all of that homogeneous ecosystem, it really is the final product that tells the story. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story with us this evening. It has been an absolute joy. Because based on the comments from the Cellar Angels folks, the wine is a smash hit. The silky tannins are, if I were to have offspring, I might name one of my children Silky Tannins. It's just something I love, and I did not know about the Petit Syrah, so you're going to have a convert here because I'm a big fan of Petit Syrahs.
Great.
But from all of us at Cellar Angels and for everyone, next week will be Sip 39. It will be a social sip. So we will be all together, and we're going to elevate everybody's camera if they would like to. And Rahn family, you are free to join by all means.
Love to be there.
There might be some sparkling and some bubbles,
Hey, we love
but
that.
this is a trying time, and we're thankful that so many people come to this forum every Friday night to get together, learn a little bit, have some laughs, drink some fantastic wine. And tonight was certainly no exception. To the Rahn family, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for helping
Thank you
out.
guys for
Thanks
coming.
for having us.
Seriously, thank
Yeah,
you so much.
Well done, Martin. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. You guys, everyone stay safe. Be good to one another. Cheers.
Salud.
Cheers.